Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of the GameChangers United Podcast. Another one that I'm really excited about, and I keep saying this every episode, but this one is really special. So, Chloe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mata, for having me. It's an amazing podcast and great to be here.
Thank you so much. So we know each other personally, but we will deep dive on that. So to introduce Chloe, to introduce you short to the audience, you're a multi-award-winning speaker. And I know that because I learned it from you. So I'm a little bit nervous actually now recording this with you because we're also recording it on video. So when you're only listening to this on the audio, know that it's also in the video. But you're also an Amazon's #1 best-selling author and an expert in storytelling. So we're going to deep dive on that. And last but not least, you're also co-founder of the Queens in Business Club. And this is also the place where, I don't know what I'm doing. I recorded every interview like in one take. And I'm just nervous with you.
That's fine. You can chop that bit. You don't have to mention the club. I think it ended quite well if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. We can just cut it out because okay, whatever. So, Chloe, can you introduce yourself a little bit further for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, Mata, that was a beautiful introduction. So I'm not quite sure I'll be able to top that. But yeah, so exactly as Mata said, we met through various different training programs, one of which was public speaking. So a bit of background on me. I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years. I run many different mentoring programs and storytelling sort of expert sessions, I guess you could say. I've published myself 4 #1 best-selling books, one which was my first ever book, which is called Determined and Dangerous, where I shared my story of struggling with depression, overcoming all of those very challenging mental illnesses, and then starting my own business. Then went on to really just find something within me that I wanted to actually share more with others and realized that my story had such an impact on other people that actually sharing other people's stories and helping them to share their stories would be really game-changing for their lives. And so went on to then utilize that to launch the Best-Selling Books Bootcamp, to launch the Queens of Business Club, and just come up with as many ways as possible to help men and women to shine in their true selves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I really love about you and the fact that you are positioning the story as one of the most important things to do so. There was really a reason why we met 2 years ago. So I'm going to take the audience a little bit back to that story before we deep dive in all the beautiful things that you're doing. Because there's one thing that I really want to get to give people with this episode, and that is the belief and the belief and the power that in 2 years, a lot of things can change. So whenever you are in a situation right now that you feel like the situation is not the situation you want to stay in, just listen to this episode and feel motivated and really stimulated to take the best out of yourself and using your story as the fuel to get there. So 2 years ago, I left the Netherlands quite unexpected, actually, because I was following a mentorship program in the UK. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to stay in the situation where I am right now. And you can listen to it in the first episode from Tesla to Tanzania. I'm going to take you with me on that journey, like what got me to that point. But I created a life that I wanted to. I wasn't happy. And I was stuck, and I needed to break out and break free. So I decided to take on this mentorship program, and I decided to go all in. So I moved to London. And Chloe, you and I, we were really close from day one, actually. And we were talking briefly before we press record. And I remember sitting in that room with you, and you were asking me the question like, okay, so who is your audience? Is it male or female? And I was like, I don't know. Like I felt so, I just didn't know. And we started working together, and we shared an office in Arsenal, Islington. And by doing that, we were really part of each other's story from 2 years from now. And 3 days ago, I was in London for an event, and we met in person. We were actually supposed to record a podcast then, but we didn't manage to do that in the 3 hours that we were talking. I'm sorry, it's a very long introduction, but I'm super excited because going back to London 2 years after this journey and talking to you again there in person, I realized like how much has changed in 2 years for me, but also for you. So can you take us with you on this journey of growth of the last 2 years and, well, basically all the growth that you went through as well?
Yeah, I love this. So I think the key thing with any growth is that it doesn't matter where you're starting, but it matters where you're facing. And for me, when we met 2 years ago, just being really direct, life was really good. You know, I was in a really, really happy place where I was mentoring for some of the world's best training companies. I was getting to teach public speaking. I was teaching marketing. I was teaching book writing, which is all my favorite things. And similar to Myrta, I'd been living somewhere else up north in England, and we both sort of took the leap to move around the same time.
Yeah.
So, not knowing we're both doing that, right? Like we just kind of appeared and we're like, oh, you've moved, I've moved, cool. Let's go share an office, which is how entrepreneurs think most of the times. And then obviously COVID hit again. We all thought we were out of it. And my business was already flourishing, but I'd actually moved a lot of it to in-person training. Because after the first batch of COVID, I was like, oh my gosh, I need people around me. I love speaking on stage. I love coaching people to speak on stage. I love helping people in person. And then when it hit again, it was like, oh my gosh, again, like another punch, another sort of bit of wind was taken out of me. And without dragging you through the whole story, I really went back to questioning, what is it I love doing? Like, I've made such an impact. By this point, I was already a #1 best-selling author. I was already a speaker. I'd already won, I think, 2 or 3 awards. And I thought I'd, quote unquote, made it. You know, I thought I'd had it. I thought I had it sussed. And then when all that happened and my foundations really shook, I just had to go back to basics and go like, what is it I want? You know, like I'm now stuck in my house now for 4 months because the UK was on like a strict lockdown for 4 months. It was winter. I hate winter. I love the sun. And I was like, this sucks. Like, what am I doing with my life? And so I just went back to the pen and paper and was like, what is it I love? What do I want to create? And that's the thing. One of the biggest things I'd say to anyone that's listening right now is that you might be in a place where you're in pain. You might be in a place where things are not looking good. And you kind of got 2 choices at that point. You can either stay there and focus on the pain, or you can change your focus to what you love. And I know that sometimes sounds painful and struggling, but you can do that on love of anything. It might be what you love to eat. It might be what you love to listen to. It doesn't have to be what I love of my life. It doesn't have to be a big thing. So I'd started shifting just to what things that I loved. Listening to music I loved, watching TV that I loved, talking to clients I loved, doing free work that I loved again. And then without going through the whole detail, things just started to line up and become a lot clearer. And similar, even when we spoke a few days ago, even you were saying to me again, well, hang on, why are you waiting for that? Like, why are you not giving yourself permission for that? And I was like, oh shit, I'm doing it again. You know, I am sort of holding myself back again. And I think the message for anyone listening is that we will always hold ourselves back by accident because we want to keep ourselves safe. And so that we will always be playing small, even if we think we're playing big. But I thought I was playing really big.
Yeah, exactly. And that's interesting in your story, because I know that you went through this leap a few times, actually. And the last time, so what you're explaining now is that 2 years ago, you really felt like I made it. Like I did it. I accomplished everything that I want. And still there was, again, this voice, maybe not in your head, but in your heart, saying like, yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, sometimes and I think this is also part of life and business. And when you are like a layered woman, like we are, we go through different layers. Every time we think we found it, we discover another layer, like and another one. Like, okay, but you think you're already there? Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to give you some more.
Yeah.
So I think the stories that we hold are layered as well. I mean, and they add up. I mean, well, you know this as the best because you are a public speaker. You won awards with it. You tried to teach me, but I'm still not applying everything that you taught me. But
it's only there to be picked and chosen from. Don't worry, we're all learning all the time.
Exactly. So, but maybe it's good to dive into that, like the structure of a story, because we wanna talk today about how as a female entrepreneur, but also as an entrepreneur, how can you use your story as a fuel for your life and your business as well. And maybe it would be nice, like, how do we structure the story? Because sometimes we are so in the middle of our own story that we cannot see it anymore. So we are like, how do you call it, in the eye of the
storm.
In the storm. Yeah, exactly. I think that would be very helpful if we take that approach.
Yeah, of course. So the first thing is, we all have millions of stories within ourselves. We have so many memories, and we've all had so many things that have affected us and molded us. So the biggest thing when you're thinking about telling a story is actually not the story, it's who's listening to it or who's reading it. So whether you're writing a story for a book or you're planning to talk on a stage or a Facebook Live or a podcast, you've got to think about, first of all, who is going to be receiving this and what parts of my story are relevant to them.
Yeah.
So for example, here I'm talking about how my life changed because it's really relevant to every single person listening. However, if I was talking at school potentially about why they should start their business, I might talk about my experience in school. So it's about, first of all, understanding who is listening and who is reading, which is why the first question I asked you is, who's your audience, back 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So once you've got that down, then we go into the structure. So the first thing to think about is what has been a light bulb moment, or what has been a breakthrough moment, or what has been something that has formed you, has affected you, has pushed you in this direction. Because we're always going down tracks. We're always like we're on a train, and something will hit the track and make us divert into another train or divert into another track, depending on what's going on in our life, right? So those are always things that I like to call them light bulb moments or breakthrough moments. Like, so when you're thinking about telling your story, thinking about writing your story, the first thing we say is to think about, what are these breakthrough moments? Like, what have been moments where you've gone, this is enough, I'm going to make a change? Because we all have them. Yeah. And they're usually the moments that help our audience or our listeners or our viewers by relating to it, going, oh my gosh, I don't have to stay here.
Yeah.
So the first thing within your story to come up with like a structure is understanding what your breakthrough point is, and then describing what got you there. So what was painful that triggered that? So that's kind of the core concepts of what goes into your story. And then obviously where you are now, what's the benefit of overcoming this?
I remember, I will use my story as an example for this so people can hopefully relate to it. I remember that you were telling me, like, I think there's one part of your story that you really need to start telling. And that was that I had a miscarriage of twins. And I was like, but I wasn't ready because I was still too much in the middle of that experience, because it's only 2 years ago. And it was only I think it was only 1 year ago when we spoke about it. Not even. And I knew that you were right, but I also knew that I had to work through my own story to be able to do that right now. And we all have like this core story, let's say. I mean, like the main story that you have in your life. And at one point, I really feel now I'm in the transformational part. So I think it would be interesting for us to dive into the 3 stages of a story. So you have, the first one is a loss, the second one is a false win, and the third one is transformation. And I really feel like now I'm in the transformation. I really feel like I had my biggest part, let's say. It's really weird to say that maybe, but I feel like now from now on, it will only be better. And of course things will happen in my life, but I don't feel like I'm going through similar major things again. But who knows? I like let's say. But the first, so when you help women or men craft their story, you always begin with the loss part. So this is the part where basically it really hurt it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the part that I always describe as pain, because a lot of people a lot of people struggle to think of a loss because they're like, well, there was never a major loss in my life. Like, for example, I have a really good friend, a business partner, and I won't mention her name because it's quite personal to her, but I was training her when we were writing our first book together and doing some speaking. And she said, but Chloe, I've had a really good life. Like, I didn't have a loss. I didn't have a bad childhood. I didn't have a really bad breakup. I didn't have anything like that. So the reason I've actually renamed the loss scene to pain is because it doesn't have to be a loss. It just has to be pain. So because pain is what makes us move, right? So for example, you might have had a really amazing childhood, but something still hurt you. So it might not have been a loss. It might have been a bully. It might have been a bad conversation with a parent one day. It doesn't mean you have to have lost anything. So I like to think of the first part, the first scene, as we call it, as something that triggered pain, because we always move through pain. So if no matter where you are right now, I guarantee there was something painful that made you appear to where you are now. And for some of us, there are different layers. Like Märta was saying, sometimes we have certain layers of pain that we're prepared to talk about, and there are layers underneath it. We're like, nope, I'm not there yet. I'm not going to go down there. I'm quite happy at this level here, and then I'll go down to the next layers later. But the more times you talk about it, the more times you write about it, the more times you share about it, the easier it gets to start talking about the real pain that started the whole process.
Yeah, exactly. And also it helps you to heal. It helps you to grow towards that level of pain, let's say. It really, for me, public speaking really helped me to understand my story even better. So I think that for a lot of us, that we need to understand what happened as well in our lives. And you might think like, oh, I never lost anyone, or my losses or pains are not so big. But it's like Chloe said, sometimes it's just one sentence that you can keep with you for years. And by understanding your own story better, by understanding like what happened and why am I the way I am today, not who am I, but really why, that helps you to identify yourself better, and also to identify how to help yourself better moving forward. So that time that we spent together, like working on public speaking, even though I didn't really figure it out yet, helped me to take the next steps in understanding, and from there healing from things, grieving about things, and so it's more than just presenting a story on stage. It's also very healing for yourself. So, and if you go to the second stage is the false win.
Yes.
And I remember that you guys were using the example of the Lion King. So I'm going to use that here as well. So Simba in the Lion King loses his father. And he takes off and he goes out with Timon and Pumbaa, living Hakuna Matata life, and like really literally pretending to be someone else, pretending to be another animal. And that's where the false win stage comes in. It's like a stage where you think you're doing the right things, but actually you're not. Yeah. Can we deep dive a little bit on that? And maybe using your example or my example as an example.
Yeah, definitely. So absolutely right. So false win is about where every single one of us in our lives have gone into something thinking it's going to fix everything. Or it might not be a bold thing. It might be just, we feel like this is the right thing to do, like Simba did by leaving his family and going ahead and running away. And for some of us, running away is actually something we've all done. So we can resonate quite well to it.
Still running.
And so false win in our stories is where we've had that moment of, oh, I think I've got it. We think we've got the answer, and we go down that path, and some point on that path, we have a light bulb moment, which is where we're like, oh no, actually, this isn't it. This wasn't the right thing to do, which is why we call it a false win, because we think it's a win until reality hits us, and whether we uncover something or something happens and we're like, actually, this wasn't where I needed to be. Now I know my true path.
Exactly. So for me, that moment in London actually happened when I was there like for 4 months or something. And I started the business and everything. Basically, I just picked up my life in the Netherlands and continued it in the UK, and set up this amazing concept for global business. And Chloe, we talked about it a lot, and we still need to do something with it. we will in a different way, but that's for another story. So I set up this whole company, this whole business from the strategic part to the founding part to partners to everything was just finished in a few weeks. I mean, that's my super talent. And I had this conversation with the Chamber of Commerce in the UK, and he was asking me, "Wow, this is amazing. But so, what is the role that you see for yourself?" And I was like, shit. Well, I don't want that. Like, I want to come up with it, and I want it to be there, but I don't want to run it. Like, and this was a moment for me that I was thinking, oh wait, like same shit, different country. Nothing like nothing negative to the UK, but for me it was like this moment of okay, so I did it again. Like again, I was thinking that I was solving things, but actually I was just running away from things. And this one sentence, this one question actually changed the game for me again. And this was the moment when I decided, no, but this is not it. But I need to go back to myself, and I really need to grieve, and I need to heal, and I need to rest and recover from the things that happened in my life, from losing my disabled sister to fostering a teenage girl to losing to the miscarriage and everything. And this moment in The Lion King is when the monkey comes to Simba, showing him a vision of, what was it, like his father or something, his mother, or like we all have these moments in the false wind where we just realize, oh no, this isn't working. So I'm getting all enthusiastic again. So what was your do you have a specific moment in this stage where you that you can still recall?
So the challenging thing with telling your story, as I said, is there's loads of stories within us. So whenever I help people with crafting their story, whether it's a book or on a stage or whatever, there's loads of false wins, because we've never really just done one thing and gone, oops, not the right thing. We've trial and error a lot in our lives. So I think it would depend on who you're talking to. But for me, I would say that throughout my whole career, I've always been stood behind someone. So I've always either mentored or spoken for someone, or I've worked in someone else's organization. And so I assumed that it was the right thing to do. Right. And I was building my business by always sort of, I wouldn't say being in the shadow of someone else, but I was always giving credit to other people, mentors.
So sorry, guys, for my Bluetooth. I tried to switch it off, but sorry. So you were always in this, like you were hiding. You were afraid to step into your own power. Yeah. Were you afraid to? Like, there's also something as like being afraid to succeed.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I think it was what came with, and I won't go into my whole childhood thing, but I think what came with growth, it can be lonely at the top. And I think I succeeded very quickly in my business. It was definitely challenging, but I didn't really have any other option. And so I succeeded very quickly in my business. And then I didn't like being at the top on my own. And so what I started doing was speaking for other people, mentoring for other people, coaching for other people's businesses, so that I was the second in command. And then I'd say my biggest false win was then going into someone else's organization to build their organization. And whilst it was an incredible opportunity, and still to this day, I give that person credit for a lot of what I've learned and achieved, I realized that I wasn't doing myself the right service, or that person the right service, by doing that, because it wasn't making me happy. It wasn't lighting me up. And so I'd say that was a false win that many of us maybe who are listening can relate to, because a lot of the times we think we're doing the right thing because other people are benefiting, or, our teams are benefiting, or our business is benefiting, our clients are benefiting. And actually you got to ask yourself a question, well, am I happy?
Am I happy? And am I benefiting? Am I getting something out of it? Either it's happiness or energy, or it doesn't have to be money. I mean, it can be a lot of things. And so the thing that you were saying is very interesting. You didn't want to be alone at the top. So you didn't want to be. Do you mean like you felt lonely at the top, and you didn't want that? So that's why you took on a role that would always enable you to be with people.
Exactly. Yeah. Because no matter if anyone's listening is in a training business or a mentoring business or a coaching business, you're always with clients, but they're never with you. You're always slightly elevated because you're the coach, you're the mentor, you're the trainer. Yeah. Same as a leader in an organization, whether you have 1 employee or 100 employees, if you're the leader, you can be vulnerable with your team, which we obviously recommend, but you can never really be equal to them because you're the leader and they're looking to you for guidance. And so I found that as I built my teams bigger, and there was a point where I had 15 employees and I was like, I am so lonely. Like I could see their friendships, I could see their connections, and I could see the money in my bank account. And anyone else would have been like, Chloe, what are you complaining about? But money's never driven me. Connection and belonging has. And that's where I suddenly realized knowing myself helped me realize that in order to succeed in business, I could never be alone at the top again, which is why then I basically created a business where I'm not alone at the top and there are 5 of us at the top. So my point is, your false win is usually a moment where you realize you see things so clear all of a sudden. And you have those moments where I can guarantee every single one of you listening has had a moment when you go, how did I not notice this before? How did I not think about this sooner?
Yeah.
That's it.
How did I end up in this situation?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember we helped each other professionally as well.
Yeah.
And we really helped each other identifying those moments as well. And I think this is really important for everyone who is an entrepreneur and who feels lonely and is doing things, because a lot of game changers are people that feel lonely quite often. And it's also part of the game, I think. Exactly. But by partnering up with fellow game changers, you can help each other move forward. I mean, this is basically the whole reason why I started GameChangers United as well, is to be able to support each other and to learn and to help each other forward, because that's what we do. So then the favorite stage, I think, for everyone. I mean, the transformation. This is always a moment when you reach that, you're like, oh, okay, finally, I made it. Yeah. So this is the moment right after you identify this moment, what you're just saying, like, okay, how did I end up here again? And then you start to transform it, literally. Yeah. So can you take us? With you? Sometimes my English is like, I don't know. It's
just too excitement, too much emotion and excitement and energy.
I think so, yeah.
This is your favorite phase, so definitely. Yeah. So transformation, which I also like to know as the growth phase. So this is the phase where we are growing. So we've had the false win. We've had a moment of a breakthrough, a light bulb moment, as I like to call it. And then from that light bulb moment, we grow. That's why it's not just like a win, it's not just a victory, because there's an element of a process attached to it. None of us just go for a light bulb moment and click our fingers and now we've achieved everything. We've all been there. We're all game changers. We know the process. We know sometimes there are tears and blood and sweat and happiness and joy, but there's a process. So within the growth phase, it's about now actually becoming what we know we can truly become. So that is becoming the game changer, whether that is getting mentorship, learning, writing a book, starting a new business, moving house, moving location, getting a new relationship, whatever it is that's part of your growth. And then showing your true path to the victory stage, which we end in, right? So victory is usually the end part of the growth, the end part of the transformation. And that's where you are now, really. So we're all in our growth phase. We all are. A lot of people feel like they're not, and they go, "Oh, no, I still think I'm in the false win." But it means you're not looking at your story with the right lens.
Exactly, and that's so interesting, because that's also what we do as coaches, is to help people to see their story for what it really is and where they really are, and also helping you to shift your mindset and your frame of the world, basically, in order to grow. there was just one expression that that's saying like instead of you're not stuck or you're not lost, but you're just early in the process. Yeah. And I really love that one, because the transformation, the growth phase, it can be your whole life, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes maybe you experience another loss and you go back, but you once you identify like the stages and the process that you are in, mm-hmm. you can also identify, for example, sometimes for one part of your life, you are still in the false win stage. You can also be in different stages at the same time, I think. I'm just thinking about it now, because we were talking about it a few days ago. Sometimes you have a little setback again, and then you feel like, hey, wait a minute, am I still happy? What happened? And then you can step into the trap again of going to the false win, and then you identify it sooner, so you can go to the transformation again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think this is the key, where some of us, we can go into a lot of information and ideas and analysis of our stories. And this is why, we set 3 scenes to be able to make it easier for our audience to understand. Yeah. But for us, we're not 3 scenes, we're multi-dimensional. We've got, a million different scenes going on in all different areas of our lives. And this is where, whenever you are writing your story, it's about zooming right out and look at which is the most powerful pain that's got me to where I am, which is the most powerful or impactful false win that's got me to where I am. And now where I am, I'm in growth. And this is where it's documenting what you've achieved in this point and how you got there. Because ultimately, as game changers, that's what our audience, our listeners, our readers want to know. How did Nata get there? How did Chloë get there? That's what everyone is dying to know.
Yeah, exactly. And so whenever you do this, whenever you craft stories with your clients or for the women that you work for, you do it to help them to write a book or to tell their story on stages. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about those clients? Like, who are they and why do they want to share their story?
Yeah.
Why don't they just keep it for themselves?
So it's a really, really good question. And I think I work with so many different people on this. So I work with predominantly women, but I do have a lot of male clients that I've helped, particularly with writing their books. And the main reason, the most similar characteristic or need or want I can see between all of them is that they want to help people. Yeah. Because a lot of us have been through pain. And the worst thing about going through pain is pain without purpose.
Yeah.
So when you write your story, when you write your book, when you tell your story on stage, on a podcast, on a Facebook Live, wherever, to someone down the street or in the supermarket, it gives purpose to your pain. And so these people all want to share their pain to give purpose to other people. And so these are coaches, they are consultants. I've got some world-class speakers that I've written their books for them. One of my clients is a very, very, very senior executive in the pharmaceutical company. I think she manages like 1,500 people. Wow. And she wants to end up working with world leaders. And so she's written her story to show that she's a normal human being, but she's a woman at the top and how she got there. And that other women can dream big too. I've got some clients who have written children's books. I've got a one incredible girl who's 14 years old who started writing her first book at 11, and her book is a children's book helping kids overcome their parents divorcing. And from my background as Mata, I went through a very, very challenging divorce with my parents when I was very young. I just was like, this needs to be out there. And she was by far the fastest international #1 best-selling author we've ever had, because our stories needed to go in places. So it doesn't really matter what type of book you write. A lot of people go, how many words do I need? And how am I going to publish it? Or how long do I have on stage? That's not relevant. What's relevant is the message that you're giving to people and what it's going to do to people's lives.
Exactly. And don't focus on the outcome. Don't focus on the functional things, because that you will figure it out. But focus on the message. Mm-hmm. And so how do you see the future of storytelling?
Great question. I feel like it's going to evolve massively. I think what our stories won't change, but how we deliver them will, and adapt. Because for 2 reasons. One, the world is changing at a rapid pace. Our attention spans are vanishing as we breathe. And so where people used to pay attention for 20 minutes to listen to a talk, I don't think they will listen to someone's story for 20 minutes anymore. They used to, but I don't think they will much anymore. I think we're going to see a lot more shorter, more powerful stories being shared. And I also think there'll be elements where we will adapt how we tell our stories because of the world we live in. So for example, books are brilliant, but podcasts, audiobooks, people love to listen as much as they love to read nowadays. And I don't think hardback, paperback books are going anywhere. I think you will still have your loyal, book lovers. And I end up listening to both. I always have an audiobook and a paperback so I can make notes because I'm just weird like that. But I think they are gonna continue. But I do think the world is going to move more towards audio and listening to people's stories and feeling it in their voice rather than reading someone else's story with their own voice.
And this is so amazing that you are building this platform to be able to help people share their story. I think it's like identifying their story, craft their story, share their story, own their story, overcome their story. I mean, there's so much more to it than just publishing the book with them. Absolutely. Or recording an audio book with them or for them. So helping your clients like really step in their story, but out at the same time. Yeah. And by doing so, they can impact so many more people. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to do that? So for example, let's say I come to you. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually writing a book as well. It's quite a long process, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I'm better in speaking than writing, maybe. No, I don't know. But so what would a process look like for me, for example, using my story as an example?
So first of all, I love what you just said because and I'm going to be a bit direct. And any listeners, I hope you've learned to love me by now, so you can accept this.
Now we're getting the real Chloe.
I hear that excuse so much that writing is hard or I'm better speaker. It's a long process. So this isn't just me. I actually wrote my book in 10 days whilst running 2 businesses. And so the reason I did that is because there's a method to getting your book out of you really fast. It's like switching a tap on, right? And basically the way I do it, so there's 2 ways I help my clients do it. So both of them follow the same framework as to how we get it out. And then I help them, I hold their hands and help them write their own book. So they write their book and I'm there to guide them every single week onto what they need to get out first. Do they start writing their story first? Do they start coming up with the book cover first? Like all this kind of stuff, all these questions. But the biggest thing, which is exactly what you just said, Myrtha, is how to write your book fast. So get it out of you without thinking, oh God, I've got a blank piece of paper and I've got 30,000 words to write, because that's just never going to work. And then the other way we do it is actually people who are super, super busy. They're like, I want a book. I really want the best-selling status. I want to be able to share my story around the world. But I don't have any time. Like I'm back to back fully booked. So then we do it for them. We shadow write them and publish it. So that's where we interview. So for example, like we're on this right now, we interview some of our experts and we ask them a series of questions. We get loads of information out of them. We have a series of interviews and then we use that to write their book. And then they obviously read it. They have a look at it. Yeah, they're happy with it. And then we publish it. So there's different ways of doing it. And it depends on your method. So basically, how much time can you put into it? Do you want to write your own book and be involved really hands-on in the process? But when I say that's probably the most hands-on way, or if you just want to delegate the whole thing, either way, it's probably only really maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. And within 10 weeks, you can have a best-selling book. So that's where there's a lot of beliefs. And I really struggle because there are so many stories in the world right now that could help people that are stuck either half written in a book or stuck inside someone and no one's ever going to listen to it or read it. And that's what pains me, because I think there's so much pain in the world. And actually with what's going on now, there's even more pain in the world than you could argue has ever been. And so which means there's even more stories and purpose coming out. So that's where, to answer your question without going off on one, I'd say the key thing is to look at, do you want to write your own book? If you do, then follow the clear process that we set for you. Follow us, do it with us. So I set myself a target. I don't know if I've even told you this yet. I set myself a target of writing my second solo book by the end of this year. I'm publishing it.
Oh, really? No, you haven't told me.
And I'm really driven, but because I've got now 4 businesses, I doubled my businesses since my first book. And so my availability has massively gone down. And so I decided to put my money where my mouth is. I keep saying to people, you can write a book in 10 weeks. You can write a book in 10 weeks. So now I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to write a book in 10 weeks, and I'm going to show you how. So I'm actually going to write my book alongside a group of my clients. And every week I'm going to share with them, this is how I've written this part. You're going to write your part now, and guide them through it so that they actually, because some people go, oh, you can become a best-selling author in here, and you can become a 7-figure business owner in 7 days. And it's all just fluff. Yeah, whereas for me, I want to prove how easy this really can be when people get out of their own way.
And what I really like is using your existing environment to motivate yourself to take action as well. I mean, we also, like, even though you accomplished a lot, but it doesn't mean that you don't need the motivation as well to do it, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, and I think the listeners would be interesting to know as well, like, okay, so I wrote this book, but how am I going to market it next?
Yeah.
Because writing is one, but selling and serving a lot of people with that is.
Yeah. So there are two main parts to, well, there's actually 4, but 2, you categorize them into 2 main areas whenever you're writing and publishing a book. And it is those 2 areas, writing it and promoting it. A lot of people get stuck in the writing and never promote it, or worse, they write it and they never promote it, so it doesn't ever sell. So the promotion side is just as important as the writing side. And this is why we do all of it, because I don't want people to do half the work and then not.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So the promotion side is really about getting people excited. So my biggest piece of advice about spending an hour talking about promotion is you want people to be as equally as excited about your book as you are. So this is, talking about it, sharing the book cover, sharing photos of you writing the book, talking about it, maybe even leaking a paragraph from the book. Just share with people that you're doing it, because people love people. And if people are supporting you, and people love to help people. So if you share with people that you're writing this book or you've written this book and you really can't wait to get out there, people will go, oh my God, Matt, I'm really excited. When is your book coming out? What's it called? Like, just share as much as the journey, share the experience with people, and then they'll want to support it. And then it goes without saying, when it's live on Amazon, if that's where you decide to publish it, then talk about it. Get the message out there, promote it on your pages, promote it to your clients, whatever your promotion strategy is. The most important thing is to get people curious and talk about it.
And do you also use your network, because you've been published a lot, like in big magazines and stuff? Do you also use that network for the advantage of your client?
Definitely. Yeah. So depending on who our clients are and what they want, we always recommend at least 1 or 2 sort of press media features, because then it gets more engagement. And obviously, because like you say, I run the press media company, we manage to leverage that a lot with what we do. But it does depend. So it's got to be with purpose. So, if it's an irrelevant media outlet, then it's not going to do the work. But it also helps to get more exposure for your book, but also get more authority for your book.
Authority, exactly.
Say, Marta's book's been featured in Fox News. Oh wow, this is not even out yet. This must be a really good book.
Yeah, because authority is one of the 3 key pillars that you use in your business to help people get seen. It's like authority in their own lives, but also professional authority in the market by publishing. Basically by creating a whole strategy behind the publishing that really fits the thing that they want to achieve. So you have authority, and then you have authenticity and action, right? As the 3 pillars that you use. People, I pay
memory.
You don't look so surprised. You know me by now.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Hit the nail on the head.
So, and this way you already helped publish 17 books, I think, and 3 of your own. So 20 and counting.
Yes.
So if people want to be published and want your help or need your help, how can they find you?
So great question. Best thing is to, if you want to look into the book side of things, so it's probably my website. It's probably the best place. So it's just chloebisson.com/BBB. So that's where you'll find out more information about the book specifically. Or if you're just curious to know what we do, then just find me on Instagram or Facebook. So it's Chloë Bisson Official on either of those. feel free to reach out, send a message, and see what can happen.
Amazing. Yeah, and to wrap it up, because I'm very aware of the time, I think, how much time do we have?
I've got about 10 minutes.
Oh, about 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Oh, good. So then I would like to talk a little bit more about wrap it up, like about the growth that we went through together. Yeah. So 2 years later, we are both sitting here recording this podcast interview. 2 years ago, you told us you were really on top of things. You were like really like you thought you made it and everything. And then life took another leap. So what is next for you?
Love it. Who knows, Meta? Who knows? No, obviously we've got a plan. So what's next? So we're going really big with our book publishing business, as you can probably tell. So at the moment, we've published 17 best-selling books and 51 best-selling authors. So we have 100% success rate of hitting bestseller status with our books that we publish. And that is something, number one, that I do not want to lose. And every time we get an author, I now have to vet them and go, do I think they have bestseller potential? Because I don't want to leave that, that status. And so that's something that we really take pride in. So where do I see, what's next for us is I'd love to get 100 best-selling books. That for me is where, and that's not my story, that's me helping other people's stories get read and get heard. So I think that's what next for me in the business world. I will be launching my own podcast very, very soon. It's in the pipeline. It's been in the pipeline for a while, but
you have to. I am so proud that I beat you at this.
I know, right?
Yeah, Chloe was just telling me before we started recording that this was actually well, you've been interviewed, but the first podcast that you are doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm really proud. I really take pride on that.
Yeah, see, save the first is always the best. And then personally, I mean, I have a bigger dream with what I really want to do, and we're planning on doing in April, but I run a lot of retreats. Yeah. And so I ran a business retreats in Cyprus, and what we're looking at doing now is actually running book writing and publishing retreats. So retreats for authors.
This is amazing.
That's what I'm really looking forward to. And in the south of France, in a really nice, sunny, incredible environment, with just a really small group of people. So I'd say that's kind of what I see myself next, but who knows?
Yeah, and the south of France is because your partner is from France. Yeah. And I'm just thinking now, like this it's not a coincidence, because when you think about writing a book, people go to France, right? They go into this environment with like the valleys and everything. Yeah. It really matches. It really matches. So in this retreat, you are going to take people on a writing journey. Like, so in like 5-10 days, they're going from blank to a full book, or
so it'll probably be 7 days the way we've mapped it out at the moment, and it's going to be exactly that. So they can come with a half written or with absolutely nothing, or with a whole book. It's totally up to them. And I'll be taking them through personally the different stages of writing a book. So they will have probably a couple of hours in the morning with me mentoring them, and then they'll have free time in the afternoons to write their books, or using a strategy that we teach is actually recording their book first. So speaking their book to really? Write their book, which is it's a hack that I'm more than happy to give you, lovely. Because if you think you're a better speaker than a writer, then that is a secret tool that I always give.
I'm not getting out of this anymore.
And then I'll also bring my publishing team with me, so they'll be there on call. So if people have questions on how to publish it or proof it, we'll have the design team there. We're going to do their photo shoots for their book covers and their press releases and things. So it's kind of an immersion experience, but also really relaxing, down to earth. We'll have meditation, we'll have journaling, just to really help people tune into the core of what they want their story to be.
That is amazing. So can we just follow your website for more information on that?
Probably. Yeah. I think maybe just stay tuned on either Instagram or Facebook. It'll, as and when we get there, it'll be something that we'll probably launch there. And if anyone is interested, best to just email me, because email the team. It's hello@chloebisson.com. Yeah. I have no idea when it's coming out, but if you email, at least I can get your name on the waiting list.
Exactly. And I will make sure that the information is in the description as well. So yeah, 2 years later for me and talking to you, Chloe, it's been an amazing journey. And I was talking to you like when I came back to London a few days ago after I was there for the first time 2 years before. I was sitting in the tube, and this moment brought back so many memories for me, like going to the office and working together with you there. And literally, I was at the beginning of that part of my journey. And now being able to record this podcast with you, launched GameChangers United, where I can inspire and empower and connect fellow game changers on their mission to make the world a better place. It's been such an amazing journey. And today, of the day that we are launching this podcast, is a special day for me. So it is actually the birthday of my sister who passed away. So she would have been 26 right now. And I couldn't have thought of anyone better to launch the podcast, the series of interviews with than you, and on her birthday. So I'm really proud to do that. And thank you so much for this amazing interview. And I feel like we should record another one, because I think we have a lot more to talk about. But we wanted to really focus on the storytelling part, like if there's something inside of you that says like I need to understand myself better, I need to understand my story better, or you already know that your story can change the lives of a lot of people, then please reach out to the both of us, and we will help you. We will help you to do that.
Oh,
so thank you so much, Chloe.
I just want to say, honestly, Mata, one, I'm so proud of you. It really means a lot to be here. And two, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this on Tessa's birthday. I feel so privileged that you chose this, and it really does mean so much. So I really hope every single one of you have loved listening to this. And if you haven't already, most definitely subscribe to Mata's podcast. It's incredible.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to end the recording. You will stay on for a little bit.
Of course, no problem.
Okay, thank you.